launch titles. Maybe the most needed thing for a console to have, especially back in the day. And Nintendo has hit some home runs on so many of their consoles. The NES had Super Mario Bros. The SNES had Super Mario World. And the N64 had Super Mario 64. All three of these games were groundbreaking, revolutionary, genre-changing titles. And even in modern games today, you can see the shadows they left behind. So, when Nintendo's fourth major home console, the GameCube, was set to release, gamers assumed that it would launch with another revolutionary new Mario game. And they were right. Somewhat. The GameCube's biggest launch title instead was Luigi's Mansion. While a fantastic game, and one of my favorites of all time, it wasn't the flashy, impressive, era-defining Mario title most were anticipating. Rather than a platformer, this game is a survival horror game, starring Mario's younger brother exploring a haunted house. While Luigi's Mansion was never divisive in the same way as, let's say, Majora's Mask, for a good while, it was super underrated. And after a whole year of covering almost nothing but massive RPGs like Pokemon or Fire Emblem or Mother, I think it's time I wind down with a smaller, cozier, immersive game for once. And one that I haven't replayed in almost 6 years. And it kind of terrifies me that I'm now getting old enough to remember things from that far back, and still have it feel like it was yesterday. A quarter-life crisis aside, let's dig in. Even before the title screen, the creepiness already begins, with a ghostly voice whispering Nintendo.
Nintendo.
When me and my cousin were kids, I remember that voice scaring her so much. The title screen too is pretty ominous. The combination of music and a picture-perfect image of a haunted house give me chills. It's as if it's saying, stay away, your life depends on it. When I think of a haunted house, this is what I think of. After the Kingston Mansion from Scooby-Doo, but hey, second place ain't bad. When starting a new save, Luigi makes his way in a dark forest to a mansion he won in a contest that he didn't even enter. And well, I think he got scammed, Luigi. This is the expectations versus reality meme in real life, and well, not real life because this is a freaking video game, but in full force here. At this point, I think it's time to go back home, Luigi. The inside is just as homey as the outside, with no lights on or anything. As you explore with only a flashlight, you make it to a door that's locked. Real fast though, I have to say that this doorknob opening animation with a close-up of Luigi's hand on the knob is fantastic. It looks so good, especially for something that came out in 2001, before I was born, so I like it. It's so creepy. Heading downstairs, what seems to be a ghostly apparition appears. It heads for the room beyond a locked door and drops a key. With it, Luigi enters the room and comes face to face with a ghost. As luck would have it, this old scientist guy shows up with this cool vacuum to suck up ghosts. This is Professor Egad, by far one of my favorite characters in the Mario franchise. He and Luigi escape back to his lab nearby, where Egad gives more details on what's going on. Egad is a ghost hunter and has lived in this area for years, until one night, the king of all booze built the current mansion right next to his lab in a single night. He also freed all the ghosts Egad caught in the past, and they all now reside in a newly constructed house. Worst of all, Mario arrives at the mansion before Luigi does, and has been captured by the booze. For the first time, Luigi has to save the day all by himself, rescue Mario, and defeat King Boo. Egad then sets Luigi loose to explore the mansion. Now that we have the Polter Gust, I better explain how it works. By pressing R, you can suck ghosts, tablecloths, and other various objects. This is one of the few GameCube games to use the controller's pressure-sensitive trigger buttons. If you're barely pressing down the R button, the Polter Gust vacuums lightly, and by holding it all the way down, the Polter Gust sucks at full force. By holding B, you can switch off your flashlight, and the C-stick moves what Luigi is pointing at. The key is to use both the Polter Gust and flashlight as a team. When the hearts of ghosts are visible, strike them with your flashlight, which stuns them for a second, making them vulnerable. Then, players can use R to vacuum the now exposed ghost up, only they'll try to get away or fight back somehow. You need to move the control stick in the opposite direction the ghost is moving. If something interrupts the sucking process, or if the player fails to move the control stick back, the ghost escapes, and you have to take them by surprise all over again. Well, not completely all over again, because almost every enemy has an HP counter, and every second they get vacuumed, it goes down. Once it hits 0, enemies become trapped inside the Polter Gust, and then Egad's lab. Overall, it's a very engaging battle system, and one I never get bored of. You have to be fast, have to always be on your toes, and it can be very intense at times. Still, it's not that hard of a game or anything, and much easier than most Mario platformers. A interacts with stuff, or, when there's nothing around to interact with, can make Luigi call Mario's name. Does it have a purpose? Not really. Am I glad it's in the game? Yes. Lastly is the Game Boy Horror, a system created by Egad that can be used to communicate with him, look at the map, or look around in a first-person view and check things out. I have to say that the graphics for something based on the Game Boy Color are pretty good. Well, if Egad can make a device to capture ghosts, I'm sure making a super-powered Game Boy Color is pretty much nothing. Also, the model for the Game Boy Horror looks very, very high quality for a 2001 game too, like damn. I'm pretty sure they got a high quality scan of a GBC rather than just using a 3D model or something. Like, seriously though, this looks really good. One question I've always wondered is, why on earth did they base it off the Game Boy Color and not the Game Boy Advance? It's true that development started on the N64, yet the devs would have known about the upcoming GBA, and when they switched development to the GameCube, you'd think they want to promote their new handheld. Well, it doesn't matter at all. I mean, it's just a question I have, not really a criticism, so don't take that the wrong way. Anyway, Luigi is widely known to be a silent protagonist, but by using first-person mode and looking at stuff, Luigi gives his own thoughts. A lot of this internal dialogue is pretty funny, charming, or straight up mean sometimes. Like, I didn't know Luigi was so savage, like damn, he just straight up insults everything, including Egad. I can only imagine what he has to say about Mario at times, or think, because he's way too shy to say any of this out loud, probably. As the journey goes on, you get these elemental medals, which unlock new powers on the Polter Gust. The ability to use fire, ice, and water with L, lighting candles, freezing things, or watering plants. Similar to Pokemon, these elements follow a rock, paper, scissor based formula. Fire beats ice, ice beats water, and water beats fire. Certain ghosts have elemental typing, and need a certain element to be beaten. Like with vacuuming, depending on how hard the L button is pressed, elemental attacks vary in intensity, although using less power is a lot more useful in the case of elements, since you have an energy meter for it. One flaw with elements is that players can only equip one at a time. To switch, or to restore power of a current element, suck up these mini elemental ghosts that are usually found around torches, sources of water, and the like. It's somewhat annoying. I wouldn't say it's a major problem though, because it's pretty easy to find a source of elemental spirits, and elemental typed enemies are pretty rare. The mansion is split into 4 areas, or to be more accurate, I call them chapters. Each area isn't well defined, like, let's say, Area 1 being the main floor while Area 2 is the basement or something. While they follow a slight pattern, like Area 4 being the attic, or Area 1 being the first floor above the foyer, you often visit new rooms in already beaten sections as well, making the distinction between areas even murkier. I mean, just look at this map dividing the areas, and you'll get what I mean. Each one follows a similar formula. You explore rooms and fight ghosts to collect keys and such that lead to other rooms. Some battles involve hordes of weak generic baddies, while others involve a special one-of-a-kind spirit, the Polter Gusts. Unlike boos or other species, these guys are implied to be the souls of once living humans. Their behavior mimics who they were in a previous life, most having some flaw or sin, but was ultimately their undoing, gluttony, vanity, or arrogance. A crucial detail that I didn't quite understand as a kid is the mansion not being the home of these regretful souls. Again, Egad says that the boos built this place in a single night. He also states that these ghosts are ones he captured from various locations over his lifetime, until King Boo freed them. Even so, most of the rooms seem to be directly inspired by the lives of the Polter Gusts. The first encounters with them are in Area 1, which involves a family. There's Neville, the father, Lydia, the mother, and not bad looking if I do say so myself, and their children, the older twins, Henry and Orville, and their baby Chauncey. No, not that Chauncey, but anyway, the twins are fought much later into the story, hence what I was talking about earlier with the areas not exactly being well defined. Well, Chauncey is the boss of Area 1. How their baby is so much more powerful and able to create alternate dimensions to fight Luigi in is beyond me. Area 1 overall is extremely short, like half an hour or less. I always beat it in one sitting nearly every playthrough. But we're not quite a quarter of the way through though, more like an eighth. Yeah, this game is really short, which is something I'm going to touch up on later. Area 2 mostly takes place in the main hallway, containing a lot of various milestones. You gain the fire and water medallions, meet a ghostly fortune teller, and find where the boos have all been hiding. Luigi comes face to face with King Boo, who confirms that Mario has indeed met a horrible fate. The Polter Gust being on Luigi's back is the only thing that saves him, as the boos fear and scatter across the mansion once they see it. Then there's a special Polter Gust that I have quite an embarrassing relationship with, Melody Piancima. She's the spectacle of the Ivory Keys, and unlike other bosses who are super aggressive or won't even acknowledge Luigi's existence most of the time, Melody actually takes the time to compliment Luigi on his musical performance and then plays a song for him. Unfortunately, you still have to fight and catch her. I really wish that instead of catching her, that she just give you the key, and then from time to time throughout the game you could just come here and listen to her songs. Unfortunate. As for what I meant when I said I was a little embarrassed looking back, well, as you can probably guess with her being the only attractive female character in the game, I had a huge crush on her. I would copy save files right before her so I could fight her again and again. I would just stare at her portrait in a gallery, and I would scour the internet for hours looking for fan art and fan fiction. Not my proudest moment, but hey, I was like 14. I mean, who isn't cringe at 14? Thinking about it now, there are a few things about Melody that I never really caught on to, or I kind of just forgot about. For one, while still the most attractive female character by far, she's not exactly perfect. I mean, besides being a ghost, that is. Like look at those lips and that nose. I'm guessing playing this with composite on a CRT TV hid those imperfections. Furthermore, she's not as nice as I remember her being either, yes. She's not as malicious as most, yet she's still really smug towards Luigi. Plus, There are tons and tons of other Polter Ghosts who are just as, if not more passive than her. For some reason, I remember Melody being this innocent girl, tragically being made a villain. So in retrospect, Melody's a cool mini-boss and nothing more. The world boss is a shadowy figure, Bogmire. He's fought in the mansion's graveyard, which you'd think would be the most haunted place on the property. Yet, it's actually kind of quiet all things considered. This fight is incredibly easy, even easier than Chauncey. All you have to do is suck up his dark clones, launch them at him, and then suck him up. Area 3 mostly takes place on the second floor. You get ice power, explore this beautiful space-themed room, and get to be a peeping Tom the Miss Petunia, and of course, they had to make her ugly, although her silhouette conveys quite a bit differently. Outside in the courtyard, beneath a well, Luigi finally sees the fate his brother has met. King Boo has had him transformed into a painting, displayed in his altar, as all Luigi can do is watch. Also, real fast, does anyone else think that this painting looks like the graphics of a DS game? I mean, it looks like it came right out of Super Mario 64 DS. The player's goal from here is to collect items Mario left behind. His cap, his shoe, his glove, his star, and his letter. Some of which don't make sense considering that he still has them in the painting. That aside, once they're collected, they need to be brought to the only true good-natured ghost of the game, Madame Clairvoyant. She can call upon spirits to get visions of the current situation at hand. Now, you can visit her before this, and you can even get a few of Mario's items before and bring them to her to get visions. I, however, seem to always hold off until I have every item for some reason, making most of her information outdated, with Luigi seeing Mario with his own eyes and all that. Except for one quite significant detail, that Bowser has somehow returned, being somewhere within these walls. Also, I forgot how charming and humorous Clairvoyant is. She actually cares about the well-being of Mario and Luigi, and she's fairly nice to him. It really sucks too that she has to be caught. I mean, Melody's one thing, but why couldn't you just stay here as an NPC to give hints or something? She at the very least wants to be returned to her painting, not even struggling. The stage boss is King Boo's right-hand man, Boosalis, a being made up of several individual Boos, and the second toughest boss overall. He body slams across the arena. The trick is to get him to touch the spike on these statues. Doing this causes him to break up into smaller Boos, who can be frozen and caught. Unfortunately, they have situational awareness and fly away when they see the ice beam too soon. Hitting them is hard, and as the Boos get sucked up, it only gets harder. Most of the damage I took was from the last Boo, which, that getting this last Boo really sucked. Lastly, we have Area 4. At the start, a blackout occurs, causing ghosts to spawn endlessly everywhere in the mansion. Because Luigi gets startled every time a ghost appears, you can get hit no matter what you do sometimes. Also, if light is bad for ghosts, and the power going out causes the lights to go out too, then why did the Boos even build this place with a functional electrical system and lights to begin with? I'm just saying. To bring the power back on, Luigi must face the most terrifying ghost of all. Not in terms of strength or even physical appearance. No, this ghost I'm talking about is Uncle Grimly, a creepy old man who is probably a pedo. He's the last ghost I would want to be in the same room as. After tripping the breaker back on, the rest of this chapter takes place in the attic, basement, and even the roof. The boss is the creator of all these generic ghosts, Vincent Van Gogh. It's a pretty anticlimactic second to last boss. All you do is fight a series of regular enemies and then suck up Van Gogh in the same fashion as just a regular portrait ghost. Again, pretty anticlimactic. All that's left to do is fight King Boo. However, I've only scratched the surface so far of all the things I love about this game, mostly the little details. So, before I tackle that, let's look at them. My favorite aspect of Luigi's Mansion is without a doubt its atmosphere. This game is immersive and always draws me in completely. All the rooms are so incredibly well detailed, especially for such an old game. I mean, just look at all this detail. Nothing is bland or barren. Some stuff I didn't even notice until now. This place really does feel like a real-life haunted mansion. The attention to detail is just insane. The soundtrack also plays a role. Rather than the creepiest songs imaginable playing constantly, the music is pretty low-key most of the time. Few songs are something like, let's say, Lavender Town. Not scary, just once again, atmospheric. Also, compared to a typical game, song volume is a bit lower, and sometimes there's no music at all. There's no music in regular ghost battles. And when a room is cleared, it's accompanied by Luigi humming. Lighting plays a huge part too. When ghosts are nearby, the room is dark. When the room is cleared, the lights come on. Going through already cleared areas can be just as immersive as ghost-rated ones. Luigi humming alone is a vibe on its own. Outdoor areas are fantastic too. I could just chill on this roof, or the courtyard, for hours. The only thing that can make this even better is if rain was here too. The little Easter eggs make a big difference too. Poor Luigi, he can't even get a break in the menus. If you sit idle while quitting the game, the text reads, "You'll be back, and we'll be waiting." When copying a file, it reads, "More files means more fear." When deleting files, it says, "You can delete the files, but not the fear." And while hovering around a new save file, "Welcome to your mansion" becomes "Welcome to our mansion." Way to traumatize a generation, Nintendo. Boos are much different than other ghosts, not showing up in dark rooms. Once a room is cleared, this light on the Game Boy Horror will show if there's a boo inside. Then the player can check around until either a decoy or a boo emerges from hiding. Fighting them is really easy. They can barely fight back. They can't disappear, making them helpless victims against the Polter Gust. Flying away into other rooms is basically all they can do, although it can get incredibly annoying, especially at times when they fly into rooms that are not yet cleared or you can't visit them because you don't have a key yet. Each have a unique nickname too, being a pun like Game Boo or Boomerang. There are 50 in total, which seems like quite a lot. Yet in reality, not exactly, since 15 of the boos are from Boosalis. Plus, every time you catch one, EGAD lets you save. And speaking of that, a huge difference between this game and Dark Moon has to do with saving. In Dark Moon, you could only save after beating a mission, and in Free, auto-saving was all the rage. Here, however, the main method of saving is talking to Toad. As much as I love Dark Moon, that was one of the few major flaws of it. It really sucks sometimes, having to play really long levels in one sitting, without a way to come back later. Talking to Toad is much easier, and you can come back to him and save at pretty much any point. He can also be found in multiple spots inside the mansion, which is great even though this place isn't at all large enough for that to have been a major hassle in the first place. My favorite location he shows up in is the bathroom. He somehow manages to lose a key in the toilet, which is the player has to vacuum out. Good thing the ghosts don't have to use the bathroom, or Luigi for that matter, considering that Toad is always in there, and that would be a bit weird because he's sitting right on the edge of the toilet, so. This mansion is packed with treasure, coins, bills, gold bars, gemstones, pearls, and more. None of it has a gameplay purpose. There's no shop to buy items or upgrade to Polter Gust or anything. Its only purpose is to change the ranking the player gets after they beat the game. Despite that, collecting money is super satisfying. It just feels so good to explore every nook and cranny to uncover hidden bills or gems, or open treasure chests, which burst open with just cash. Coins, bills, and gold bars are very common, and as such, they aren't worth all that much. While sapphires, emeralds, rubies, and diamonds are worth a ton, but very uncommon, as well as hard to get sometimes. Like the ones dropped by speedy spirits. These guys are the bane of my existence. They're hidden in certain rooms, and need to be caught before clearing them. They hide in a certain spot, making them easy to miss. Furthermore, they'll try to escape. If the player takes too long to attack, or fails to suck them up after exposing their heart, they are gone forever. Thankfully, you can miss quite a few of them and still get an A rank. Pearls are dropped from portrait ghosts. If you catch a ghost in a single vacuuming, they drop a big pearl, which is worth a lot of money, yet not as much as gold diamonds. The total amount of money in this game is fixed, at around 140 million G. How much is a single gold diamond worth? 20 million G. Basically, each gold diamond is 1/7 of all money in the game. Only 2 exist though. One is obtained by catching every single boo, while you get the other from watering this plant periodically in each area. To get an A rank, 100 million Gs are needed. If the player gets both gold diamonds, that gets them almost halfway there. Miss them and it's way more difficult. What may be the most common critique of Luigi's Mansion though is the length. This is a very short game. We're talking 5 to 8 hours kind of short. While yes, this may not be the best title to get bang for your buck, and a part of me wishes that there was more of it, in the end though, I feel it's perfect just the way it is. I feel that short games are underrated. There are so many perks to shorter playthroughs. You have a harder time losing interest or getting burnt out. You can use your extra time to play other games after, not to mention the replay value it adds. If you're a longtime viewer of mine, you may remember that I've talked a lot about getting burnt out of so many of my favorite games halfway through for some reason this year. Maybe I've just been depressed this year, I don't know. Luigi's Mansion, meanwhile, is one of only a few things this year that I've had fun with the whole way through. It's really nice to knock a game out in a few days, instead of nearly a month. Luigi's Mansion may have had one of the more interesting betas. The trailer seems so much creepier and weirder than what we got, especially if one theory is true. In the E3 2001 trailer, what looks like a timer appears. Some speculate that this was a countdown timer. The player would get 24 hours to finish the game, or else it's game over, like Pikmin. Although once again, this is an 8-hour game at most, so that seems very generous. Even then, I'm still glad it was scrapped. At the end of the trailer, a very disturbing Luigi can be seen, leading some to believe that this scene would play once timer ran out and Mario is lost in the mansion forever. A remake was something many fans, including myself, are hoping for a really long time. So, when one was announced in 2018, we all got excited. Until we heard that it was on the 3DS. I love my 3DS and all, but why did it have to come out on it? In 2018 no less. The Switch had been out for a whole year at this point. The 3DS is about neck and neck in terms of power relative to the GameCube, making this more of a port than a remake. At the end of the day, the 3DS version, it's still Luigi's Mansion, it's still good. It has some improvements, along with some downgrades. There's just so much to talk about with it though, too much for this video. Instead, in the future, I plan on making a whole video on it, so Stay tuned for that. And one final topic I want to talk about is my personal experience with the game. When I was a young kid, I didn't have my own GameCube. My aunt and uncle did though, so whenever I went over to their house, I'd play it along with my cousin. Luigi's Mansion was one of the few first-party Nintendo titles they had. I still remember my first time playing it. I had never seen anything like it before. The only console I had up to this point was my N64. The graphics, the rumble, it all impressed me. To this day, I still get nostalgic goosebumps when the ghost drops that key. The gallery is the furthest I got during my first attempt, mostly because my cousin was scared, since she was a lot younger than me. I would try a second time a few years later, but only got to Neville. A few years later and now a teenager, I finally made some serious progress one night while staying the night at their house. I got all the way to Bucelis. Unfortunately, I had to go home after that. Then New Year's Eve came, and I got to spend a night there again. This time, I would finish the rest of the game in less than a day. It was the first time I remember staying up past midnight just to play this. The next morning, I finally beat King Boo, my uncle and cousin watching me take him on. It's a fond memory, one that I will always cherish. Eventually, I got my own GameCube, and my own copy, albeit in pretty bad shape honestly. I can't believe I paid $38 for this at the time. Even though I've had my own GameCube for years, I can't think about this console without thinking about them, and the fun times I had playing these games at their house. Sometimes when I think about the GameCube, I can swear that I can smell the way their old house used to smell. Nostalgia really is something, isn't it? Okay, this video has become way longer than I was honestly expecting, which seems to be a theme lately. So, how about we take care of King Boo before this video hits the 1 hour mark? To be able to fight the final boss, 40 Boos have to be caught, along with Van Gore's key. King Boo's altar lies in the basement, at the end of a long hallway. Luigi slowly makes his way there, places the key inside, and slowly opens the door, dreading what will come next. King Boo gazes into his Mario painting, monologuing to Luigi about the suffering Mario caused him, and how he must have a Luigi painting as well. Luigi gets sucked up inside, emerging into a strange arena, looking like the mansion's roof. Madame Clairvoyant was right, Bowser is here, or at least a Bowser mech that King Boo uses. It's a strange fight, both easy and hard at once, if that makes any sense. But Bowser's suit breathes fire, throws spiky balls, and charges around. Sucking up his balls and blowing them back in his face causes the head to fall off, allowing you to suck up King Boo. While he may be helpless, Bowser's head can still spit ice at you, so watch out. This battle is easy in some aspects. It's pretty darn short, maybe a minute or two at the most, yet hard too, because of how much damage Bowser's attacks do, and how tricky it can be to dodge them. I came close to dying here, even with this being my 8th playthrough, so you can only imagine how much trouble I had the first time. I still remember it well. It was early morning. I had stayed up all night trying to beat the game, going through Area 4. Now, I was right at its finish, with only a few hours left before I had to go home. My cousin and uncle watched, while my aunt was asleep, and we had to try not to wake her up. This fight took me at least a dozen or so tries, and a funny glitch took place that I don't think we'll ever be able to replicate ever again. Basically, one of these balls got stuck underneath Bowser's crotch, and just stayed there until I died. Eventually though, I beat Bowser, and more importantly, created memories that'll stick with me forever. Anyway, with King Boo caught, Luigi escapes the painting, and takes it back to Egad. The rest of these Polter Gusts return back into paintings, while Mario, has quite a bad time going through the machine reversed. Egad probably should have taken off that vent before putting Mario through. Luigi cries a tear of joy being reunited with his brother, and a laugh. Some of the most awesome gaming credits play next. Seriously though, this song is awesome. Egad uses all the money Luigi found to buy him a new house. The more money you got, the bigger of a house you'll get. This is the first time I got an A ranking playing the GameCube version, and it feels great. While there isn't any post-game, there is a challenge mode, called the Hidden Mansion. Here, enemies are tougher, but there's more treasure to make up for it. Honestly though, like with Master Quest, it's never quite interested me. And that was Luigi's Mansion, a short but great experience. Very few games immerse me more than it. I love all the detail, the gameplay is fun, and it's very relaxing. I needed a game like this right now. Despite this video being extremely long, it was honestly far easier to make than almost every video this year. Usually, it takes me a whole month or two to finish a game review. This time though, it's only taken me around 2 weeks. If only every other retrospective or review was this easy to make, my life would be so much easier. Typically, my non-Pokemon videos tend to do pretty poorly, so I would appreciate it if you guys could like the video, subscribe, comment, share this video with your non-existent friends, etc. If this video could at least get 1,000 views, I'll follow up this video with either Dark Moon or the 3DS Remake, whichever one you guys want more. Anyway, goodbye 2024, hello 2025, and I wish you all a happy new year.